In this section, Aurobindo has been telling us about our universe, the consciousness that's ruling in our universe. And he says, it seems as if the divine plan has two extremes, the extreme of spirit and the extreme of material nature. And what we read the last 2 weeks was about the powers of the spirit and how pure and remote from us they are. No? But then he reassured us. He said that nevertheless, there's always a divine intervention to help us. We are not left alone on this casual globe, on this meaningless globe. Even when things seem worst, when nothing we can see but drift and bail, an outstretched hand is felt upon our lives. And one who has made this world is ever its Lord. And that outstretched hand is keeping our destiny, our ultimate destiny, safe for us. The destiny that was promised to us when our souls agreed to incarnate in this manifestation, when first man's heart dared death. The souls knew what kind of experience is facing them. The immortal beings will have to experience death and suffering. And they accepted that, to dare the experience of death and to suffer all the struggles and pains of life. And he says, the time will come, there's a date is fixed in the calendar of the unknown, when everything that now seems so remote from us that we really wonder whether it exists or not, everything will come near that now is naught or far. And then those powers of the spirit, those calm and distant mights, will act at last. They are waiting. They are immovably ready for their destined task. And when that date comes, then those ever-wise, compassionate brilliances, they are waiting to hear the sound of the incarnate's voice, the incarnate transcendent calling them, and then they will leap down and bridge the chasms of ignorance, all these deep crevasses and gaps. They will heal the hollow, yearning gulfs of life and fill the abyss that is the universe. That's what he has to tell us here about those pure and absolute powers of the Spirit. And now we're going to read about the other end of existence, the workings of material nature. So I'll read to the break, and then we'll look at this sentence by sentence. So top of page 60. Here, meanwhile, at the Spirit's opposite pole, in the mystery of the deeps that God has built for his abode below the thinker's sight, in this compromise of a stark, absolute truth with the light that dwells near the dark end of things, in this tragi-comedy of divine disguise, this long, far seeking for joy ever near. In the grandiose dream of which the world is made, in this gold dome on a black dragon base, the conscious force that acts in nature's breast, a dark-robed laborer in the cosmic scheme, carrying clay images of unborn gods, executrix of the inevitable idea, hampered, enveloped by the hoops of fate, patient trustee of slow, eternal time, absolves from hour to hour her secret charge. All she foresees in masked, imperative depths. The dumb intention of the unconscious gulfs answers to a will that sees upon the heights, and the evolving word's first syllable, ponderous, brute-sensed, contains its luminous close, privy to a summit victory's vast descent and the portent of the soul's immense uprise. This is a description of what's happening here in our world, here meanwhile. You will start, Martin?
It's a very long...
It's a very long sentence, yes, but anyway. Yes, I think you have to read it all.
Okay. Here, meanwhile, at the spirit's opposite pole, in the mystery of the deeps that God has built for his abode below the tinker's side, in this compromise of the stark absolute truth, is the light that dwells near the dark end of things. In this tragi-comedy of divine disguise, this long, far seeking for joy ever near, in the grandiose dream of which the world is made, in this gold dome on a black dragon base, the conscious force that acts in nature's breast, a dark-robed laborer in the cosmic scheme, carrying clay images of unborn gods, executrix of the inevitable idea, hampered, enveloped by the hoops of fate, patient trustee of slow eternal time, absolves from hour to hour her secret charge.
So it's a long, complicated sentence. We can take, first of all, 3 lines. The first line, here, meanwhile, at the spirit's opposite pole. And then we can go to line 507, the conscious force. Sorry. The conscious force that acts in nature's breast. And then we can go to the last line of the sentence, absolves from hour to hour her secret charge. That's the structure of the sentence. The first line, one in the middle, one at the end, and then in between, Aurobindo is developing with subordinate phrases. So where are we here? We are at the Spirit's opposite pole. We are living and existing in the mystery of the deeps, the deep places that God has built for his abode, as his place to live in, below the thinker's sight. It means below what our mind can see, in the subconscious, in the inconscient. She's working here in this mystery of the deeps. And she's also working in our world. He describes it as a compromise. A compromise is a kind of accommodation between opposites that don't really agree and match, but they somehow come together in this compromise between two things: a stark, absolute truth, that's the higher levels of the spirit, with the light that dwells near the dark end of things. In matter, there's a hidden sun of consciousness. No? So these two, this stark absolute truth on the heights and this hidden light that dwells near the dark end of things, they compromise, and our world is the outcome of their compromise. And Aurobindo describes it as a tragi-comedy. The ancient Greeks, who were the first to theorize about drama, they said there are two kinds of dramas, and they used to celebrate. Once a year there would be a big, long, 3-day long celebration, and their best poets and writers would prepare for that celebration, and some of them would write tragedies and some of them would write comedies. And the philosopher who wrote about this, Aristotle, in his Poetics, he explained that for people to get away from their ordinary everyday lives and feel deeply a tragic drama that touches their hearts with pity and grief, no? That's a kind of purifying experience. But it's also a purifying experience to see a comedy which makes fun of life as it is and makes everybody laugh and roll about in their seats and have a marvelous time laughing at themselves. That's also purifying. So for so many centuries, plays, dramas were divided into these two categories. Either they were tragedies that ended very, very sadly, full of tragedy, or they were comedies that made people laugh. And it seems to have been our great English poet Shakespeare who invented the tragi-comedy, which has both elements. No? So Aurobindo says our life here is a tragi-comedy. There are tragic bits and there are funny bits. And he says it's a tragi-comedy of divine disguise. Because who is the actor? Who is all the actors? Who has worked out this plot and this story? It's the divine himself. And he's playing all the parts in his divine disguise. And then he gives another description of our world here. He says, it's a long, far seeking for joy, ever near. We are always looking for delight, for bliss. We don't always know that it's bliss that we're looking for, but we look for satisfaction, for enjoyment, for pleasure. So he says this seeking for joy, it goes on and it's taken us through this long, long journey of evolution. But in fact, that joy is always very, very close to us. So it's part of this divine disguise that makes us go on seeking for it as if it's something very far away. And then he says that this world of ours is a grandiose dream, a dream on a grand scale. It's like a golden dome on a black dragon base. And Mother has asked Huta to make a painting of this golden dome, our highest human achievements of creativity and thought, philosophy, civilization. But all these high achievements that are there embodied in that golden dome, they're founded, the foundation is this black dragon base of the inconscient. It's a phrase from the Vedas that Aurobindo has taken up, the dragon of the dark foundations. The thing about a dragon is that he guards treasure. He collects all precious things, whatever he can, and he keeps them hidden in a cave, and he just sits on them. He doesn't enjoy them. And it takes great heroes to go and find him in his cave and maybe steal a few of his treasures. So there's something like that, a power like that at the base of our world. But on top there's this golden dome. So now we come to the subject of the sentence. The conscious force that acts in nature's breast. Our scientists are just beginning to think that maybe the force which is working in this material universe is not unconscious as they always thought, that it must be conscious. But it's quite a new idea. In the last few years it's come up. But Aurobindo has been telling us all along that the force which is at work in what we call material nature, what we call prakriti, as if it is something mechanical and unconscious, is an action of the supreme conscious force of the divine. But here, when she's acting in nature, we see her as a dark-robed laborer, working very hard, covered up in this black cloak so we can't see what she's really like or what she's really doing. She's at work in the cosmic scheme, carrying out this plan of the universe. And what she's doing, or one of the important things that she's doing, is she's carrying clay images of unborn gods. Clay refers to matter. So she's carrying these little clay figures. That's us. We've not yet given birth to the gods who are within us. We haven't yet given birth to our divinity, to our divine identity. But meanwhile, nature is looking after us. She's carrying us and helping us to develop and to grow into those gods that are within us. So in that way, this conscious force that acts in nature's breast is the executrix of the inevitable idea. We know what an executor is, no? If you write a will about what you want to happen with your belongings after you die, after you leave your body, you will appoint an executor, somebody whose task, whose job is to see that your wishes are carried out. And this word executrix is the feminine form of that word, executrix instead of executor. It shows that she's female. So her task is to carry out the inevitable idea, the plan, the conception on which this universe is based. And her job is not an easy one. She is hampered. She's obstructed. She's surrounded, enveloped, so she can't move freely. She's enveloped by the hoops of fate. It suggests a wooden barrel, which is the wooden staves are held together by bands of metal so that it doesn't fall apart. Fate seems to be something like that, very fixed and rigid, which can't be changed. So that's making her task very difficult. Nevertheless, she's very patient. She doesn't give up. She knows that she's a trustee, that she has a mission to carry out. She has to carry this mission out in time, in slow, eternal time, however long it takes. So, from hour to hour, she absolves, she discharges, she carries out her secret charge, her secret responsibility. And she's able to do that because of what comes in the next sentence. Anandi, you can read it.
All she foresees in masking paragraphs the dumb intention of the unconscious gods, answer to will that sees upon the tides and the evolving words first zero pondered basics
Brute sensed, yes.
Contains its luminous claws.
Privy.
To it.
I'll explain later on.
Victories vast descent, and the pattern on the soul's immense uprise.
Yes. So she, the conscious force that works in nature's breast, she can foresee in these hidden depths, these depths that God has built to live in, below our conscious vision. In those depths, she foresees everything that has to happen. And she sees that it has to happen. It's imperative. A command has been given. Something has been told. What must be carried out? So she sees that. And she sees that in these deep, unconscious gulfs below the thinker's sight, there is an intention. There's a direction, a purpose, a will, which is dumb, which doesn't express itself, which can't express itself. But still, that dumb intention is there in the depths, in those masked, imperative depths. And that intention below is responding to, answering to a will that sees upon the heights, the all-seeing vision on the highest levels of consciousness. So that intention in the depths corresponds exactly to the will, the seeing vision on the heights. And then he says, the evolving word's first syllable. This refers back to something he told us at the beginning of this section. He talked about the universal word and how it has 3 syllables, but the first syllable and the last syllable seem to be cut off from the one in the middle. And because of that, we can't make sense of our universe. We're missing the context. But the evolving word's first syllable is matter. It's ponderous, it's heavy, it has some kind of senses, but they are very unrefined, very brutish. But in that heavy, dark beginning, the luminous close of the universal word is contained. If we have the first syllable, then the second syllable and the last syllable are going to emerge too. I think that it is she who is privy. She knows a secret. Somebody who is privy to a secret. It's not everybody knows it. It's something secret and private. Yes. So she knows that there's going to be a huge victory on the height of things, and there'll be this vast descent. And she knows too, she knows the portent. A portent is a sign of something that's going to happen. She's privy to the portent of the soul's immense uprise. We won't always, the soul will not always be here in these depths. It will have the chance of an immense uprise, rising up to the heights. So it's just 2 sentences. Very, very remarkable and memorable passage. Anybody would like to ask anything about these lines?
Imperative.
Sorry? Imperative. Imperative is connected with an emperor. An emperor is an absolute ruler, and if he gives a command, it has to be carried out. It's imperative. And his voice is imperious. He speaks like an emperor. He gives a command. If something is imperative, it has to be done. Can't be avoided. Yes.
Also, Mother's message.
Yes.
She said men, countries, continents. The choice is
Imperative. You have to choose now. Truth or abyss. What are you going to choose? The choice is imperative. So this is what is happening here in our world. And those these ever-wise, compassionate brilliances, they're waiting for the day and the hour to come when everything will change.
So now I question little strange, where they tell me, why the Supreme want tragedy comedy to live for this tragedy?
Sorry, I'm not understanding you, Gangalakshmi.
Why the Supreme
Yes. Why does he want tragedy? Well, he's the great enjoyer and the great actor, and yes. So, but he doesn't want only tragedy. He wants some comedy too.
When you find the joy, inner joy, it's not the tragedy.
There's no tragedy.
When the joy is established, and always.
No, the tradition says that he's made this whole universe, just for him to play in. And so he likes to play all the roles.
Because that, when I travel with my moped, I see the play. It's a tragi-comedy.
Yes.
Nothing interests me, nothing attractive.
But it's all interesting. If we can see the Lord at play in it all, it's all interesting.
But I see, it's very, very important.
delight.
Yes, delight. Aurobindo says, no? This world has been made for delight. It's not what the Buddhists say. No? And of course, it's the Lord's delight, but he enjoys through us. Yeah. And he enjoys even our tears. Yeah. So there's quite a short section to come. Let's just read part of it. Supu.
All here where each thing seems its lonely self are figures of the soul, transcendent one. Only by the him they are. His breath is their life. An unseen presence molds the willingness clay.
So this is one of these shorter sentences in Savitri that we can always remember. All here, everything here, where each thing seems its lonely self, everything seems separate and unconnected. Everything seems to be its lonely self, unique, special, its own identity. But in fact, all these things which seem to be separate, all of them are figures, images, expressions of the soul transcendent one. The one who is one alone, without a second, who is beyond all images and figures and all limitations. Transcendent means beyond everything. All here, where each thing seems its lonely self, are figures of the soul transcendent one. Only by him they are. They can only exist because he exists. His breath is their life. An unseen presence molds the oblivious clay. Our physical substance has forgotten about the divine. But within it, he is there, unseen. His presence is there. And that unseen presence is shaping, molding. First of all, these clay images of unborn gods. And then these clay images can become something much more glorious because he is within them, molding them, shaping them, helping them to grow into his dream of what they should be. Uma.
A playmate in the mighty mother's game. One came upon the dubious burning globe to hide from a pursuit in force and form. A secret spirit in the unconscious sleep, a shapeless energy, a voiceless word. He was here before the elements could emerge, before there was light of mind or life could breathe.
Yes. So that one came onto our earth, our dubious whirling globe. Dubious means doubtful. Our globe is, of course, full of doubt. We are not really sure about anything. It's dubious because we don't know its meaning. What does it mean, really? But anyway, he has come here onto this earth, which represents the principle of matter, to hide from his playmate in the mighty mother's game. It reminds us of one of Aurobindo's aphorisms, where he says that God and nature are like a boy and a girl who are in love and playing at hide and seek. So the Lord is here hiding from us in this game of hide and seek. The soul hiding in the disguises of nature. And he's hiding in order to be found. But he came here into the material world to hide from her. To hide from her, and she's chasing him. She's chasing him in force, in energy, and in form. So he's here as a secret spirit in the inconscious sleep, the deep trance of matter, the inconscience. He is here as a shapeless energy. He's here as a voiceless word, a word of command and creation, but it hasn't spoken yet. It's not speaking. He was here before the elements could emerge. All this matter is made up of organic and inorganic matter is made up of elements, chemical elements. But he was here in the universe, even on the globe, long before those elements could emerge. Now the physicists tell us what a long time those chemical elements took to evolve, to emerge from the heart of stars and suns. But he was here before that, before there was any light of mind, no consciousness, even before any life, before there was any life force, any prana to breathe. Sarojini.
The complex of thought was in few patterns. His symbolizes he turns to real shape and makes the symbol equal with the truth. He gives to his timeless thought a form in time.
Yes, this is what he was doing. He's playing with the mother. He's her accomplice. He's helping her secretly in her huge pretense, this game of the divine disguise. But all these figures of him that she makes, these semblances, these pictures and images of him, he makes them into real shapes by inhabiting them, by entering into them. He makes the symbol, all these forms are symbols. He makes each of these symbols equal to the truth which they contain. He gives to his timeless thoughts those wonderful ideas that he conceives beyond time and space. He gives them a form in time, here in the material world. And he inhabits all of them and makes them not just thoughts, not just dreams, but real. They are not illusions. They're not even pretenses anymore. They are real. Joel.
He is the substance, he the self of things. She has forged from him her works of skill and might. She wraps him in the magic of her moods and makes of his myriad truth her countless dreams.
He, the one, he's the substance of all this, all the different kinds of substance. And substance we can also say is essence. No? He's the self of things. He's the reality which is making all these things real. Out of his substance and his self, she, his playmate, the mighty mother, she has forged from him all these works of skill and might, all these forms and forces. Forged, it's what a metal worker does. Even his workshop is called a forge. It's a place where he makes things out of metals. And it's interesting that this word has a double meaning. It's that meaning of making something out of metal, taking the ore, the common ore, and turning it into pure metal and making a tool out of it. But it also means to make a counterfeit, a false money, or a forgery. It's not the real thing. So here we can see both these ideas coming together. She has forged from him, from his substance, all her works of skill and might. She has so much power and so much knowledge, this conscious force. She can do all kinds of things. She wraps him, she covers him up in the magic of her moods, all her many, many different moods and ways of feeling and playing. and she makes of his myriad truths. Myriad is so many that you can't count it. It can't possibly be counted. So there are uncountable numbers, uncountable truths. Out of his truths, she creates her countless dreams, all the things that she wants to manifest here in this universe. We were reading earlier about the two who are one. No? So this is another insight into their relationship and the way that they play together in the manifestation. We'll stop there for today.
Here, meanwhile, at the Spirit's opposite pole, in the mystery of the deeps that God has built for his abode below the thinker's sight. In this compromise of a stark absolute truth with the light that dwells near the dark end of things, in this tragi-comedy of divine disguise, this long far seeking for joy ever near, in the grandiose dream of which the world is made, in this gold dome on a black dragon base, the conscious force that acts in nature's breast, a dark-robed laborer in the cosmic scheme, carrying clay images of unborn gods, executrix of the inevitable idea, hampered, enveloped by the hoops of fate, patient trustee of slow eternal time, absolves from hour to hour her secret charge. All she foresees in masked imperative depths, the dumb intention of the unconscious gulfs, answers to a will that sees upon the heights, and the evolving word's first syllable, ponderous, brute-sensed, contains its luminous close, privy to a summit victory's vast descent, and the portent of the soul's immense uprise. All here, where each thing seems its lonely self, are figures of the soul transcendent one. Only by him they are. His breath is their life. An unseen presence molds the oblivious clay. a playmate in the mighty mother's game. One came upon the dubious whirling globe to hide from her pursuit in force and form. A secret spirit in the inconscient sleep, a shapeless energy, a voiceless word. He was here before the elements could emerge, before there was light of mind or life could breathe. Accomplice of her cosmic huge pretense, his semblances he turns to real shapes and makes the symbol equal with the truth. He gives to his timeless thoughts a form in time. He is the substance, he the self of things. She has forged from him her works of skill and might. She wraps him in the magic of her moods and makes of his myriad truths her countless dreams.